A year ago this time, shopkeepers and mall owners in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal were watching their investments burn to the ground during widespread unrest and looting, sparked by the imprisonment of former President Jacob Zuma. Let's find out how these retail spaces have recovered. I'm joined now by Jason McCormick, CEO of Exemplar Retail. It's a company that owns a number of malls that were affected by last year's unrest. He joins me now. Jason, thank you so much for your time. You and I chatted last year, and I remember it. I think you were still in shock. It was maybe a couple of days afterwards. But just explain to me a little bit more about the malls that you own and how they were affected by the looting last year.
Well, fortunately, thank you, Sally, and good evening to your listeners and viewers. Fortunately, I'm not in shock anymore. It has been a fairly boisterous year that we've had to get through all that happened to us. Last year, we had 6 of our malls, 5 in Exemplar Retail that were damaged extensively by the looting and the riots. We've managed to get 4 out of the 5 in Exemplar up and running again. The last one, eNCA Mall in Pietermaritzburg, was the most extensively damaged. And the first phase of that will open next month. The second phase by the week before Black Friday, the 18th of November. And then the final phase, just a small portion of that, will be opened by Easter next year. That will bring all of our malls back up and trading. As you may or may not know, 4 out of the 5 were trading by Christmas last year. So we managed, given the extent of the damage that we did suffer, we managed to recover quite well. But as I say, the last one will only be up and trading by the end of the month, next month.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the photos of the damage now. It's extensive. I presume, everyone was insured. I mean, how much money did it cost?
How much money did it cost? It cost us a pretty packet. It was about R500 million worth of damage that was caused to our portfolio across the 5 shopping centres in Exemplar. As I mentioned, the Edendale one was the worst. The other ones were less extensively damaged. Obviously, the fire created the biggest issues. The first one, we got back up and running within 3 weeks. Was actually within 2 weeks of the end of the violence, kind of the 20th of July last year. But yeah, in terms of the extent of the damage, it was significant. There's no doubt, we had to pull out all the stops to get everything up and running again well, not everything, but 4 out of the 5 up and running by Christmas last year. The good news is that they are back up and running. They are trading back almost to where they were previously. There has been a slow burn coming out of here. I'm just looking at these photos and they're taking me back. It's difficult not to get emotional, to be honest. It's been a hell of a year for all of us to get through all of this. But I wish you'd show where we are today. I'm just looking at
where we
were a year ago.
Yeah, we are going to get to those pictures of the amazing transformation. But I mean, I think it is important, as you say, it's tough for you to look at those pictures because it was terrifying. And the thing I'll never forget you telling me is that it was like just a wave of anarchy, because you realized there was such a level of coordination that a number of your malls were being targeted at exactly the same time, that there was clear signs of sabotage. You spoke to me about sprinkler systems deliberately switched off. Must have been absolutely terrifying when you realized that there was a deliberate intent to destroy.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing could have prepared us for what we had to go through. Yesterday marked exactly 365 days. So yesterday was effectively 1-year anniversary for when all of our malls, every single one of our malls that was damaged in a single day. And that's across 2 provinces. So 4 in Natal and 6 4 in Natal and KwaZulu and 2 in Gauteng. And that was all done in a day. There's no ways that without sufficient coordination. I'm not going to harp on the past, the reasons and all of that. For a business person like myself, educated in an orderly society, to have to deal with what we dealt with, it just comes so far out the bounds of rationality, what we had to deal with. So I suppose that was the tricky thing for all of us to come to terms with, was, you used to doing business in a certain way with a certain amount of rules and regulations and everything else. And we play by the book and we play by the rules. and when suddenly the rules are tossed out of the window and we're on the receiving end, it was a tough pill to swallow. But that said, I think that the team's done incredibly well over the past 12 months to rebuild ourselves to where we were and beyond. We've put our press releases. We'll open 3 new malls this year, so it's not just about rebuilding. It's also about building, beyond the riots and the unrest and COVID and everything else. The world is still turning, and we're still moving forward.
Has anyone been arrested for, as you say, clear acts of criminality, orchestrated sabotage? Has anyone been arrested, charged, put behind bars for what happened to the malls?
Aren't you the news anchor? You should be telling us that.
Well, I think the answer is not much. I think it was something like 2% of crimes have been prosecuted. But I was just wondering, specifically, have you at least got the satisfaction of knowing the people who perhaps sabotaged or who led the looting are behind bars?
To be honest, that would give me no satisfaction. I get satisfaction out of us getting our business up and running again. Whatever happens to the people that caused it, that's superfluous to our intent and our interests, to be honest. So yes, it's nice to know that the people from state capture, the people that committed all of these crimes, are going to be brought to book. But to be honest, that takes too much time out of our day to fret about that kind of peripheral stuff. We just prefer to focus on getting our business up and running and doing what we do, and that's doing great developments, managing them correctly, building our communities in areas that so desperately need them. It was such it was terrible for us, eSCA in particular, outside Lady Smith, within a week of eSCA Plaza getting burnt down. Bread in that township had risen to 35 Rand a loaf, because there was simply nowhere else within that rural location to buy bread, and people were really profiteering off the misery and the despair of others. And so for us, bringing this convenience, bringing these facilities back to our communities, bringing jobs back, and there's thousands of jobs that we've brought back in the last year. That's really what has commanded our attention and our focus.
Yeah, I mean, incredible resilience of spirit and determination. But I want to ask you, you said that it's not in your wheelhouse to have to worry about security. You want to be in the business of bringing people to the shops and feeding people, etc., etc. But I would imagine that in the rebuild, you've had to stop and think, what if it happens again? How would we handle it differently? Have you had to change security or your approach to security on the chance, and we're told that there's still a chance of unrest, that this could happen again?
There's no doubt that there's still a chance of unrest. If you look at where we are economically to where we were last year, I think the chance is very real, and that's the message I've told our operational team. It is going to happen again. Whether it does or it doesn't, at least if we assume it is going to happen again, we will be prepared, and we will be ready for it if and when it does happen again next year, or this year, whenever it does.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't. Talk to me, you said it cost about in the region of $500 million. I mean, I would imagine that there was insurance and that helped a lot. But what about individual shopkeepers? I mean, people who might not have had proper insurance cover. Did you have to step in and help a lot of small businesses?
To be honest, Sally, I need to commend Satria and the work that they did in helping out a lot of our smaller tenants. A big part of our business is focused on looking after the small retailers, the SMMEs, the township businesses. And a vast majority of those businesses were significantly affected. I think in Edendale, 41% of our tenants are owned by previously disadvantaged individuals. And in a situation like that, without some sort, whether they had Satria cover or not, the government did a great job in stepping in and assisting these businesses, to the extent that I think out of all the 400 plus shops that were damaged in the looting, I think we've had less than a handful which have not or won't be reopening. So in the main, everyone's coming back. Yeah, to be honest, it's something that I didn't expect, but really I must commend government where credit is due for the work that they did in trying to help and helping these smaller businesses get back on their feet, which we are seeing. They are getting back on their feet. They are reopening their stores, and they are continuing to trade with us, which for me is a great positive, because we can always deride government as much as we want, but this was a case where government really did step up to the plate.
Yeah, that is really good to hear, and congratulations. 4 out of 5 of the damaged malls have reopened, and the last one is going to open in the coming months. And great news that you're going to open more malls still, so you haven't been put off. That is very good to hear, because, of course, the more shops and malls we have, the more jobs we create. Thank you so much for sharing your story on 1 year on from those horrific riots and the looting. And let's not forget, more than 350 people were killed in the process. Jason McCormick, he's CEO of Exemplar Retail.